Welcome ladies and gentlemen, today I want to show you a Stamina Warden PvP build for Cyrodiil. Stam Wardens are one of the strongest setups at the moment because they have so much burst potential if played correctly. Now in today's video it might be a little bit longer because I want to get into details of the passives because the class is still quite new for most players and it's the first time I do a Warden PvP build on my channel. Now if you can see, now this picture here is fully buffed with 7 Legion proc and all that kind of stuff. And you see we have a lot of weapon damage, stam recovery, resistance in general. It's just overall really nice. That's one of the reasons why Wardens is so strong. They can get so nice stats and a lot of buffs that other classes don't really have access to. You will see that in a second. Now in the first part of the video I just want to go over the basics like gears, champion points and all that stuff. In the second part I will just show you some gameplay and explain what I'm doing. Because the most important part is that you understand how you can burst enemies down. Because that's where the build focuses around. We are using the Warrior Mundus Stone. We do have enough recovery. If I pop a potion, we are at 1.7k. If we kill somebody with the two-hander, we are at 2k plus heavy armor, constitution. We'll show you that in a second. Race, we're using Red Guard. You could use any other stamina race, but Red Guard is the best because Adrenaline Rush gives you almost 800 stamina every 5 seconds. Doesn't sound like it's a lot, but it's quite a lot actually. Then we have 10% max stamina and 9% stamina recovery. Before I forget it, if you feel like you don't have enough sustain, you could swap out the warrior with the Serpent Mundus Stone to get a little bit more stamina recovery. It's always important that you adjust the builds to your needs. Don't just copy paste, because everybody has a different playstyle. I do have the full guide on my website as well. I will put the link into the description so you also can go check it out there, and please don't forget to subscribe. I will upload more videos in the future. Now in terms of gear, it's a pretty standard stamina setup, 7 Legion, 2 Bloodspawn and 5 Werewolf Hide. This is more or less the strongest setup at the moment out there, mostly because of 7 Legion. It's a heavy armor set. And as you can see, the 5-piece bonus is very strong. You get, if it's gold, you get 500 weapon damage. And you also heal every time when you take damage. And now the more important thing is, the heal doesn't have a cooldown. That's why it's so strong. So the more enemies that are on you, the more healing you will get basically. Then Bloodspawn, just very nice because this build focuses a lot around ulti generation for our ultimate. Plus it also gives us nice physical and spell resistance. That's how we get to 25k physical and spell resistance. It's really nice. In terms of traits, you can go full impenetrable. I just didn't have anything else here, that's why I use well fitted and divine. But you can go full impen to get really nice critical resistance. This is very important, especially in Cyrodiil. 2.4k, like everything above 2k is very strong. Then the second set, the first set is only active on the back bar, where we use dual wield. I have a stamina recovery glyph here and 2 weapon damage glyphs. The reason why you want to have werewolf hide rings is because they have the robust trait. If you use 7 Legion jewelry, you will only get healthy traits. But so make sure to have those here in Werewolf Hide. Now this set is really good. You see, when you take damage, you gain 5 ultimate points. It has a 5-second cooldown. We do weapon swap quite a lot with this build to keep up all the buffs. So every time we go to the back bar, basically, we get 5 ultimate points to ready our Dawnbreaker even faster on top of a ton of other buffs that I will get into in a second. The weapons here, I don't have the right traits yet. I recommend playing with a decisive trait to get a little bit more ultimate generation. I just simply didn't have I couldn't find any and I didn't have enough transmute stones to change them. Weapon damage enchant here and the disease enchant here. Then on the front bar we use the Asylum sword. Now it doesn't matter whether it's a perfected or imperfected. There is basically zero difference in what it does. So now you see, when you deal damage with reverse slash, you generate up to 15 ultimate based on how much execute bonus damage it dealt. When the enemy has around maybe 20% health, you might get around 8 to 10 extra ulti. So that's really nice. And we really have a lot of burst potential because we get our Dawnbreaker ready so fast. It's completely insane. You can farm this in normal Asylum to get the imperfect one, because you see here, this gives the perfected gives you 15 ultimate points. The imperfect one gives you 14, so there's basically zero difference. Nirnholm trade, very important to boost our weapon damage. And I recommend running poisons. I use the escapist poisons. Those are really nice. They kinda root the enemy on place for a little bit. They get confused, they try to dodge roll, and if you hit them mid dodge roll, if you burst, they're almost dead because they can't block mid dodge roll. So it really confuses them a lot. Plus it also breaks you out of ongoing control effects, which is also nice. On my website you can find how to craft them if you don't know how. Champion points. Now there's a lot of very important things here. That's why I set it up like this. 52, 49, 19, 54, 56. So here it doesn't, you can play around on the green tree. I just recommend having enough points here to get more stamina recovery, dodge roll, cost reduction and block. But you won't need block that much, but still, it's nice to have. Now here's where it gets important. 23 points in Blessed to increase your healing. And here, you want to make sure to have 120 points in this tree. Master at Arms. Most of our abilities are direct damage, so you really want to put a lot of points here. That gives us 21%. Then light and heavy attack damage by 16 and 34 in shattering blows to do more damage to shields. Now why do we want 120 points here? It's because of Tactician. When you roll dodge, you set the enemy off balance. It's so easy to activate this perk. And why? Because, I mean, you have to dodge roll a lot because you want to dodge the heavy hitting abilities. And the thing what this does is, now in this tree, you have the Exploiter perk. When an enemy is off balanced, you get 10% more damage. So it's really strong. That's why I have set it up like this. You really need to make sure. 120 points here, because you see unlocked at the Atronarch rank 120, and this one at 75. Then I have 37 mighty and 48 piercing. Also keep in mind there are jump points. If you don't know what those mean, there's also an article on my website. Ironclad, resistant. Yeah, here you also can play around if you want to. But it's a pretty basic setup for CP. It's just the blue CPs are very important. Now the two-hander is our main bar and the dual wheel is our back bar. But first, actually let us go through the skills first and then I will talk a little bit about the passives. So we have forward momentum, very strong skill, heals us, gives us brutality buff and gives us snare and basically root immunity. So you see, when you're activating this ability, removes all snares and immobilization from you and grants immunity to them for 8 seconds. So in this game there is so many snares and roots, that's why it's really important to have this. So you can't get constantly snared or rooted. It only lasts 8 seconds, so you really need to remember to keep it up. The momentum itself is 33 seconds, the healing and the weapon damage, but the immunity to snare and roots is only 8 seconds. Then Subterranean Assault, that's one of the reasons why you have so strong combos. When you activate this ability, takes 3 seconds till it goes off. And it hits hard, it applies major fracture, and it's just so strong. And if you're fully buffed, the tooltip goes really high. Reverse slice. Basically you execute. We have to use this because we also use the Asylum two-hander. And those two work in synergy with each other. Deals a lot of damage, also splash damage. Then we have Dissing Swing. This is kind of our, how could I say, spammable or main ability. As you can see, those two have very similar damage, like 12k, 12k. And then the Dawnbreaker. This is your ultimate. Also around 12k damage and a dot, plus it stuns. Dawnbreaker of Smithing is basically the strongest ultimate for stamina setups anyway, because it's AoE, it has a 10 meter radius, it's pretty cheap, and it stuns the enemy. So the main combo that you will see when I show you some gameplay. Obviously I keep Deadly Cloak active. Then you activate this. You know it goes 3 seconds till it goes off. You use a Dizzy Swing, Dawnbreaker and Reverse Slice. If they don't block, they're dead. It's so many abilities that hit in like half a second. They are going to die 100%, no matter what. Unless they have like 50-60k health, but yeah. Now here, Soothing Spores. I recommend using Vigor here. I simply don't have it here because it's quite a new character. Vigor is stronger, but if you don't have Vigor, like me at the moment, just use this. It's more or less the only stamina based burst heal or whatever you wanna call it. And it also heals the group if you want to. But it's basically just another option if you don't have Vigor. It's just instant, that's a little bit the problem, but till you have Vigor, just use Soothing Spores. Just be careful, it's quite expensive, so don't spam it too much. Now back bar, I chose to run Deadly Cloak, Dual Wield. The reason why is because of Deadly Cloak. Now first off, this also deals damage, so it's just another damage ability that you can have activated on top of the others when you use your combo. And it gives you 25% AoE damage reduction, which is huge. There's so many enemies that run like the destruction stuff, ulti and all that kind of stuff. So it's very important to have more damage mitigation. Bird of Prey gives us minor berserk, so we get 8% more damage, and gives us speed buff. So that's also very nice. So that's how we maintain high mobility. Because it's just such a good ability. Then Shimmering Shield. This helps a lot with ultimate generation, even though we already have a lot. So if you want to, you could slot another skill here. Like this is kinda your flex spot. But then again, you kinda want to get Dawnbreaker of Smithing ready as fast as possible. Just to recap again, we have Bloodspawn that can proc every 6 seconds. Gives us 40 ultimate points. Then we have Werewolf Hide every 5 seconds, another 5. If you run a decisive weapon here, you get even more. Then if you run the Asylum Greysword, you also can get more ulti. We also have a passive that allows us to get ultimate points here. And then this. So just overall, there's so much ways to gain fast ultimate points. You will get Dawnbreakers ready in a matter of seconds. It's the only class that has access to Major Heroism as a buff. That's why this Shimmering Shield is so strong, and that's why you see most Warden builds kinda focus around ultimate regeneration. Other than that, it also absorbs projectiles and gives you a little bit magicka back. Then we have Green Lotus. We slot this because it gives us heal. It's quite long buff, 20 seconds, and it also gives us Major Savagery. So now we have 32% weapon crit, and when I use this, it's at 42. That's really nice. For a heavy armor build, that's a lot. Now obviously it drops when we go to our two-handed bar, but it's still like 35% still more than fine. Next thing, Ice Fortress. you don't necessarily need this, but I recommend running it because it gives you minor protection, so you get 8% damage reduction. And you gain more physical and spell resistance. So when you see we are at 15 now, and when you activate this, we sit at 20, almost 21k. On top of our huge critical resistance. And I use the werewolf ulti here. I don't actually use it, I just have it slotted to get 15% more stamina recovery. As you can see, when I use this, 1.9k, when I go front bar it's 1.7k. So it helps a little bit. If you want, you can run any other ulti. You can run the healing tree or whatever. I mean, you even could run sword and board here if you want to, if you don't like dual wield, but I still recommend it because of Deadly Cloak. Now, let's quickly go through the passives, because there's quite a lot of important things. First off, this Savage Beast, every time you activate like one of those abilities, you gain ultimate points. Like I said, it's just so easy to get Dawnbreaker. Flourish, 12% more magic and stamina recovery. So we have this here and the Assault here. So we have 12% extra recovery on both sides. Advanced Speed is nice, but doesn't really matter. Nature's Gift. This is one of the more important ones. You see, when healing an ally or yourself, you gain 250 magicka or stamina. Restores your lowest resource pool. What does that mean? Basically, if you have 50% stamina and 90% magicka, you will get stamina back. If you have 20% magicka and 50% stamina, you will get magicka back. That's basically how it works. It's a really strong passive and it only has a 1 second cooldown. When healing you or an ally, grant them minor toughness, increasing their health by 10%. We can actually proc that ourselves without even fighting. You see, now I'm not full health. And I can kinda try to weapon swap around fast enough. Where is it? There. Sometimes it works, sometimes not. Yeah, there we go. Now we are at 27. So it's at 10%. So it's really easy to proc. Especially if you're in fight. If you don't have max health and Lotus procs, you already have it. Then other things, yeah, that's more or less it. You get a little bit here, but doesn't matter. This is actually nice. Icy Aura. Snares are a little bit less effective, but whatever. Now, Glacial Presence increases chance of applying chill to enemies with Winter Spray's abilities. If you want, you could use something else here that deals a little bit of damage, so you actually can apply chill to the enemies, but it doesn't really matter. The build is too much focused on burst, I guess. So yeah. Then two-hander. This here, Battle Rush. So this is really strong. That's how we get to 2k recovery in combat. Stamina recovery. Increase your stamina recovery by 30% for 10 seconds after killing a target. So sustain will even get easier once we kill enemies. Another thing to mention is, if you do heavy attacks, your next attack will do 10% more damage. That can be very nice, because all those abilities here are hard hitting, and if you give them 10% more, it actually boosts the damage quite a bit. Other than that, sword, axe, mace, yeah, I mean, we have to use a sword. I'm actually not sure if this comes in axe or mace, but whatever. Sword is the best because it gives you 5% more damage. It works on shields and everything, so you should run a sword anyway. Dual wield. There's two very important passives, Twin Blade and Blunt. So we use two axes. Why? Because you see, each axe gives your melee attacks an 8% chance to bleed enemies for 8k damage. So when you have Deadly Cloak active, it actually can proc. Very nice. And then I run this for cost reduction. If you want to activate all, you can go for it, but it's not really necessary. Heavy armor. Still, like, everybody runs around in heavy armor in Cyrodiil except a few classes, but most players are in heavy armor because it just offers so much good things. You just have overall more resistances. And then here, Constitution. Every 4 seconds we get 541 magic and stamina back. It's a lot. Then we have Juggernaut. Gives us more max health. Max health is the strongest resource in Cyrodiil. Then Revitalize. If you do heavy attacks, you get more magic and stamina back. So it's just like 25% more in heavy armor. That's also on top of the tenacity. It's just so much in the end. And then the last one, Rapid Mending, just your healing is again increased by 8%. On top of this 6%, and we also have here another 7%. It's overall very nice. Now keep in mind, I almost forgot, we run a 5-1-1 setup, so 5 heavy, 1 light, 1 medium. To get as much Undaunted as possible. I don't have the rank 9 yet. If you have rank 9 you will get even a little bit more stats. It's just at level 2 it will give you 6% more overall stats. So if it's fully leveled you probably will have a little bit more stamina and health. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else worth mentioning. Oh yeah, the Alchemy Passive here, medicinal use. This is very important, you need to level that up. When using potions, resulting effects last 30% longer. This means you can basically keep up your potion 100% if you want to, the stamina and health recovery buff. If you don't have that passive, it's only like 30 seconds. Now I think I forgot that to mention, I use immovably pots. You can find on my website how to craft them. Those are very important. They give you stamina, health and CC immunity for 16 seconds. CC immunity is very important, so you can't get stunned or whatever. So you can use your combos without getting interrupted. Buff food or drink, we use the Dubious Cameron Throne. Gives us stamina recovery, health and stamina. It's a very strong buff. I really recommend running this. If you want to run this, you will drop too much in recovery, in my opinion. So that's the thing to choose. And again, just to quickly recap, this build is focused around ultimate regeneration and combo. If you don't manage to pull off the combos, you will not be able to burst down enemies. So it's very important that you practice this. Sub Assault, Dizzy Swing and Dawnbreaker, they can go off all basically at the same time, and then you use Execute and they're dead. That's very important. Now let's quickly get into some gameplay just to showcase you how the build works. Always before you engage, make sure to be buffed up. You don't want to buff yourself up when you're already fighting. You want to be fully ready when you engage. I pick a target there, I activate the Shulk. I start charging a heavy attack and then into a Dawnbreaker. Heavy attack, Shulk and Dawnbreaker all hit at the same time, and he was already at half health, so it's basically insta dead. Rebuff yourself, make sure to keep up your short and long buffs, it's very important. I quite often start charging a heavy attack after a Wrecking Blow. If the target doesn't break free, I finish the heavy attack and then I use Execute. Because he didn't heal himself and he was already at half health, so I knew a heavy attack is gonna drop him to like 30% and then Execute, rip. He did not block my Dizzy Swing, he gets knocked up into the air. I do a heavy attack into a Dawnbreaker and he immediately rips basically. Zorks usually run light armor, so without their shields they're very squishy, and you see my combo, it takes away so much of his health. The Shulks basically finished him off. If you play in Cyrodiil, I recommend playing in a small group, because it's easier to play, especially if you want to test out new stuff, new builds, or battlegrounds are also fine. Anyway, that's more or less it. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comment section below. Make sure to not forget to subscribe and hit that sexy like button. Thank you for watching and have a nice day. Cheers.